Alright. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
We should do our first cold open and have just that.
I mean, you fucking get it, though.
Yes, yes.
Welcome to the first Dead Genre Chronicles episode with a cold open. This is Dead Genre Chronicles, a critical podcast on the diversity of JRPGs, drawing from the origin of the genre to the present day. Every month we play through a JRPG and we invite you to play along and send us your questions and thoughts on it. I'm Devin. I don't have a joke. It's just, ugh.
I thought you had a joke.
No, I didn't have a joke. I have an intro.
Okay. I'm Becky. It took me longer than it should have to remember that.
I'm Leroy, and maybe JRPGs killed themselves.
Yeah.
Introduce the game.
This episode will be discussing Rogue Galaxy, a PS2 game by Level 5 that will now cause us to stretch our critical muscles so that we can adequately elucidate on the myriad ways that a game can be bad. Suffice it to say, we all think this game is not worth playing, and thus will not be holding back on spoilers. Let's get into this shit.
I mean the intro is that we invite people to play, but I feel bad if anyone actually play this.
Like, we invited people to play along, and then we immediately told, like, Sam, who actually did, not to play anymore. Like, this is a mistake.
Sam, bless him, stopped short of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And thus thinks the game doesn't believe us about how bad the game is.
Yeah, but he still stopped at least. So, like,
Yeah. I mean, he stops a lot of games.
Yeah. Okay.
Call out post. Sam finished some more games.
I mean, good for him for stopping.
Not this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If you stop after chapter 1, it's a good game somehow.
Yeah. Ostensibly, this is a video game about space piracy. It's not, though.
It's got as much to do with piracy as Skies of Arcadia has. Although at least in Skies of Arcadia you do some piracy right at the start.
Yeah.
I guess there's a reluctance to let you do anything that would be quote unquote like a bad guy would do in a JRPG.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really don't know where to start because this is just kind of like a mess of a game.
Well, and that's really the essence of the experience. This game has a huge number of things in it, none of which fit together with the other components, or have enough space in their own right to develop, right? To stand on their own. So we could go down the list. We could talk about combat systems, or progression systems, or side quests, or mini games, or the plot, or the subplots. Like, which one do we want to start with?
I mean, my first impression of the game was that it played like ass. I got in my first random battle. I was like, this sucks. This doesn't control well at all. I don't know, like, why they made it this way.
Yeah, well, it's
difficult to be precise about the ways it doesn't feel good. Like, there's no sense of kind of contact when you hit an enemy, and it's got some of the weird, very artificial jumping of a Kingdom Hearts game, but with none of the things that make jump in Kingdom Hearts good.
And none of the level design that makes jumping necessary, except for the worst parts of the game.
It felt like especially bad in the beginning because there's like an auto lock on, and if you don't realize what's going on and you try to hit a different enemy while you're auto locked on, you'll just like home in on the thing you're locked onto the whole time, and that was really annoying for me.
Yeah, it's got a lock on, but the camera doesn't follow what you're locked onto. So yeah, oftentimes you can't even tell that you're locked onto something on the other side of the battlefield for no reason.
The enemies locked on, they're knocked down. Your character will just do the attack they only do when enemies on the ground for some reason over and over again. And I was just like, why am I doing this? I'm confused. Yeah. Until I turned off auto lock on. But yeah, I mean, the combat has like no weight, no friction. Like, no, that's what you mean when I say when you could say there's no sense of contact. There's like,
yeah.
You feel like you have no presence on the enemies. You're just kind of floating into them.
And there's no invincibility frames. Interrupts can interrupt enemies. They definitely interrupt you all the fucking time, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of stat-based progression to it or anything. Like, an enemy will always have the same chance of interrupting you. It's just based on the moves they use.
There is one thing. If you take a lot of damage, which you will take a lot of damage, there's a chance you'll get like the stunned, which does have to do with your level, and you can do that to enemies too. But It's just going to mostly happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's mostly because by the time you deal that much damage to an enemy, they're dead.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, they have to be like way lower level than you too, so they're just going to die.
Yeah.
But if you're like on level, they're going to be doing 200 damage to you or 500 life, and you're going to get stunned, and then they can just like do it another time, and then you have the 1 HP.
Yeah. And then, like, also, item use and ability use is not bound at all by whether you've been knocked down, whether an enemy's been knocked down, whether you're stunned. A confused character can be instructed to use a confusion heal item directly.
And also, confusion doesn't actually affect the character that you're controlling so much as it turns on friendly fire if you do attack near, but you're never going to, and it's only actually a problem if a party member that you're not controlling is confused, because then they will actively seek you out and punch you. And they're usually much stronger than the enemies, which is already kind of strong, and they'll just decimate you.
But there's no healing skills either, so they just totally expect you to
chug healing potions.
Yeah, take damage and then drink like 30 to 50 healing potions.
Like, there are quote unquote tanky skills. Like Steve, the robot, voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. Who is...
That was Yuri Lowenthal?
Yeah, it was. It's just his voice. Like, it's barely even filtered. Anyway, he has a skill called Center of Attention that pulls all enemy aggro to him, but
that'll just kill him.
Yeah, he doesn't get any boosted defense or anything, so he just takes all the hits and collapses in a pile of metal, and it's just, you don't want to use it, because that's stupid.
I got this, and then he dies.
I think we also should be like, hey, this is an action RPG, it kind of plays like Kingdom Hearts, but shit. Kingdom Hearts 1, but shit. We didn't go into that, but that's kind of the reference point.
Yeah.
It's even, you could see in, like, the way, like, the formation of your party members and how the AI works, they're obviously inspired by Kingdom Hearts. And it plays worse than Kingdom Hearts, which is, like, notoriously floaty, and some people don't like it.
Yeah.
Most people like it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't get on with how Kingdom Hearts handles, just as a kind of pure preference thing. But I'd so much rather play KH1 again than any more Rogue Galaxy ever.
Yeah. Even just for the moment-to-moment
like,
stuff.
My impression of Kingdom Hearts is like, wow, have they played an action game? When I played Rogue Galaxy, it's like, wow, have they played a video game?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, what was I going to say? Yeah, the other thing is it's got the same thing that Skies of Arcadia has, actually, where the way they compensate for everything about it being unreasonable and under-designed is they give you sweepers, right?
Yep.
And, like, they're fairly cheap, fairly accessible sweepers from fairly early in the game, and you can cast them whenever. Like, you can literally be on your last character, 1 HP left, knocked down, dazed, confused, whatever, cast a sweeper and it'll be fine. And your party members all come out of KO at the end of battle, and the end result is that nothing in combat feels consequential at all.
This really isn't helped by how much damage is being done to you and how little you can do to mitigate that. Because other games have, like, equipment that you can put on, like armor, that's normal. This game, the only way you can boost your defense is by leveling up or having, like, a special thing through the growth system that gives you more defense. So, everything feels very, like, exploding in either your health bar or their health bar. It's going to pop and it's going to be done in the drop of a hat.
Also, you can guard, but you can guard one attack and then your guard breaks and the next one will knock you down, and most enemies have multi-hit attacks with a kind of effect whereby they will gather you in as they attack, or they will keep you within range, or their attack will move them towards you as you are knocked back. So you just...
Or the worst part in the final boss of the final boss rush, where they'll set up a bunch of, like, actually lethal aerial mines around you, and then hit you from underneath with this pitiful little attack that does, like, 9 damage if you're guarding, that will then knock you into things that do 500 damage and your max HP is 999. And it's just like, fuck you.
There's cases just against random battles where 4 enemies will jump up, and one will stun you, and the other 3 will come down, and you'll die. That happened to me a couple times.
And it's not even like an ambush. Like, there's no ambushes in this game except for the mimics, which are like... The mimics are also bad, but we'll talk about that eventually. But, like, there's no... Okay, so when I play action RPGs, I always kind of look for kind of the seams for where the developers kind of understood why turn-based was the way they went for a lot of the earlier RPGs. And they kind of get this, but there's no, like, fluctuation. It's just that enemies always get to attack first, basically. Because your party is still basically in the whole pulling out weapons phase, and then the enemies are moving in on you. And it's just like, that's really not good design.
It does depend a bit where the enemies spawn, and some of the enemies have really long spawn animations, but yeah.
I mean, I want to emphasize too, like, when you get into a new level, you're gonna be like definitely lower level, and that's how you get defense, and you're basically gonna be one shot by most of the enemies, like, regularly in the game. And so, like, they were like, I'm pretty sure the developers were aware of that, because you get to drop to 1 HP when you take lethal damage, like, pretty much regardless of how much HP you have. It feels like if you're really low HP, it'll just kill you. But if you're like if you have a quarter HP or higher.
It kind of works like Kingdom Hearts 2 has this thing called Second Chance, where basically, and Once More, which are two different things. The basically KH2 and later games in the series anyway, where basically Second Chance is if you're at more than 1 HP and you take lethal damage, you drop to 1 HP. And then Once More is if you get hit with a combo that would drop you from above 1 HP to like dead. As long as you keep getting hit, once your iframes end, or your hit frames end, you then lose invincibility and you can drop below 1. But, like, it feels like they kind of had that, but they didn't realize that the fact that you need that from, like, fight 1 is fucked up. You can die to, like, the first 3 fights. I know that I died within, 7 minutes of passing the first save point. Just because the enemies chew through your health. It's fucked up.
I got a game over in between, like, the prison place, because the spiders jumped up and fell on me, and it was just instant kill. And, I mean, that was, like, super demoralizing, because I have to do so much of the level over again. And I have to keep going back and forth and buying potions, spending all my money on potions, because
also, this game...
200 damage.
This game has dungeons paced like a fucking Mega 10 game, which is fucked up. Like, I keep saying this game is fucked up, but it's really just absurdly draining, because they tried to use things like the Mega 10 pacing, but you move in real time, and each, like, what would be a square in a Mega 10 game takes, like, 5 or 10 seconds to get across, and, like, every 1 or 2 you get a random encounter.
Yeah, the encounter rate is super high.
It's,
Yeah, it's a draining experience to play. And then you can't even really say there's anything good about the encounter design either. There are loads. It's chock full of mechanics with an immediate demand on the player,
and a single solution,
it should be interesting, right? But it never is, because it's just you need to do one specific thing to fix this enemy, and one specific thing to fix that enemy, and just do all those things and then fight the encounter as normal.
I mean, Lord help me when you get an encounter with a tall enemy, a barrier enemy, and a shield enemy. It's just like,
yeah.
Don't forget the enemies the one enemy where you have to jump on its head to open it
right,
before
true.
it'll. And there's something else as well. Notwithstanding mimics, which the best way to kill them is to shoot them with the platform gun, which there's a platform gun, don't ask. You shoot the mimic with the platform gun and then you bounce on its head, because that does like 3 times as much damage as any physical attack I ever managed to do to a mimic.
I didn't know that.
I would try to
freeze them. I would try to freeze them just so they wouldn't do anything, and then...
Yeah, no, like, basically you land a monography shot, which is the platform gun, which is stupid. But you shoot them with a platform gun, then they get a platform on their head, and you just bounce on them like 20 times and they're dead.
I mean, honestly, a platform game gun shouldn't be stupid, but in Rogue Galaxy, it's very stupid.
The stupid thing for me was like the second use of it is the bit where you have to freeze the waterfall and then use the platform gun on the frozen waterfall, which is immediately adjacent to a rock face that would have worked fine without freezing the waterfall.
It's also the second and last use of it.
Yeah.
Well, except for the intended strategy for the final boss is clearly to use it on the first phase of the final boss.
But fuck that, Illusion Sword.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't realize you could do that because just illusion sword.
You can platform, and you can tell it's an intended strategy because the boss has a specific move for clearing the platforms.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's amazingly bad. But I mean, the game's chock full of these stupid mechanics. There's a freeze gun. You use it twice.
What? Wait, once? Twice?
You have to freeze the waterfall and then for the boss.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Twice.
And just like
there's I mean, it even goes to the narrative. There's this one point where you desperately needed booster oil, then it just sits in your inventory all game, and it's never mentioned how any of the other ships get fuel or use fuel or why the fuel even mattered, and you don't even consume it. Just sits in your inventory. It's just like, what?
And also, you didn't even get it. Like, so
no,
your party members fucks off.
Seacrim just left. It came back. Here you go. That was like supposedly the point of going down to Shrika, but
yeah, just on the subject of so like basically the way the different shots work is Jasta has as his sub weapon a gun, and there are 3-4 special guns: monography, freeze,
barrier, and that's it.
Barrier break. Just the 3, each of which has this special function that you're going to need in some random encounters. There is no quick switch. You have to go into the change equipment menu in the battle menu and change the gun anytime you want to use it, and you can't combine them with any other functions, and they don't. It's an entirely separate category from Jasta's special moves, and every character has special moves because this is a JRPG, but also like the move repertoires are really small, which could be really interesting, except that every character gets basically the same moves, just with different elements.
Yeah, basically, the moves you get are a self-buff that gives your element unblockable, a sweeper, maybe a party buff, and then, and sometimes just double up on those. Just that's it.
And then a selection of combo attacks because Chrono Trigger or something.
Yeah.
Lilica could summon a monster, which is like the one only why is this in the game? This is actually different, but it's also completely useless. But it was like
I don't think I unlocked that one.
They could have tried to have moves that weren't just here's your spell, here's your buff. All right, we're done. But
yeah,
I mean, I quite like the idea of action RPGs with really strictly limited movesets. But
I mean, that's just Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts has all sorts of bells and whistles.
I think it's not interesting when every spell hits all targets.
Yeah,
they're absurdly powerful.
This is not a good implementation of it, and it's because it doesn't actually it's not used to create interesting limitations at all. You just every limitation that might be created is just bypassed with items.
Yeah, it's not. It's your toolbox.
Grinding.
Your toolbox is this a puzzle enemy or not? And if it's not, you can just cast your spell and they're all dead. It's not like you're using these skills in a interesting or compelling way to get through these battles. It just, do they work or not?
Also, the Burning Strike exists, which is forgettable.
You can't use it on bosses.
You can't use it on bosses. No, I know why you can't use it on bosses. It's because originally it was just a random occurrence. So they the thing that could proc that wasn't triggered on bosses, so they didn't add that in the director's cut. Perfect version, my ass.
Yeah, Burning Strike is a quick time event, special attack, limit break type thing, and they're fine. They're reasonably effective, but also you have to collect chips that periodically, completely randomly, drop out of enemies.
They actually
to use them.
Take longer. If you just attacked the same duration, you do more damage.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that is you take damage, which you don't during the animation. And also, it doesn't run the... if you're doing challenge fights, I guess the idea is because that doesn't run the timer. But also,
challenge fights.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned challenge fights yet. Some random encounters have a challenge in them where you have to complete it in a certain amount of time, or not take damage, or use a specific character.
Graces did this, where you have to do this, you have to kill all these enemies, or kill all these enemies at once, or finish the fight within X seconds. Graces came out a couple of years after this, but used the whole, random bonuses to much greater effect, and also didn't give you just shitty hunter coins, because your reward for succeeding in any of these challenges is something you will need 120 of in order to buy some shit at stores, basically.
It gives you a discount. That's it.
It unlocks things.
Yeah. Only if you get platinum, though. The other tiers just give you discounts.
Yeah.
Yep. Some of the challenges, so you can get a challenge to use a specific character and a specific character only. There is, as far as I could tell, you have to have 3 characters in your party, so you can't just remove the other characters from your party. You also can't switch characters to a reserve party member.
Yeah, you can.
And you can get... Can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You have to open the actual menu.
You can press triangle twice, and it'll go from the battle menu to that main
And
menu.
also, you can turn the ally AI to fuck off and guard, which is how I kept them from dying to mimics while I jumped them to death.
The AI is really bad, too. They just die. If you're not actively doing a lot of damage and clearing the enemies out, they will die in a couple seconds.
They're basically Kingdom Hearts. Donald and Goofy.
Kingdom Hearts has that problem too.
Yep.
But it's if you're at a point where you're struggling, everyone's going to be dead, and then you're going to just be struggling even harder.
So that's the combat, and we kind of touched on the exploration. For an action RPG, there's very little platforming, but in this case that's a massive mercy, because platforming in this game, when it does happen, is terrible. The jump's really imprecise, and it's hard to tell, and the camera's awkward, and
it's got that stickiness to the floor. If you're on a moving platform, which happens in basically one area only.
Oh my god!
Thank God.
Are you talking? Is this the train
factory?
Oh no! Okay.
No, I mean that too.
There's hidden chests, and you have to be on the train to get.
But
that was
it's got this stickiness to whatever surface you're over when you jump. So if you're on a moving platform and you're trying to jump to something, you kind of snap. It doesn't have proper physics. You kind of just snap into normal movement once you're off over the platform, and it's just they really didn't think the jumping through. That's all I feel when I feel that kind of jump.
It's like Sonic 06, but
it's like Xenoblade Chronicles, really.
But at
that
least
has that nasty snap.
At least there's a huge, very forgiving snap to grabbing onto ledges too. You could just be really far away, and then it just smash forces you to grab the ledge. I'm okay. So platforming could be worse. There isn't any, and it works because it's terrible.
Yeah, and there's very few places where platforming can cause you to take damage. You can fall in lava pits in the last dungeon, but they do only 30 damage a tick outside of battle. So
I mean, they do that in battle too. It's just not any.
Well, in battle you can also catch fire, and catching fire is a pretty nasty status.
Yeah,
it could be, or it should be kind of cool that battles just happen naturally in the same space you're in. I
mean, that's what was the hype thing with Tales of Zestiria, which came much later, but also that game doesn't play like shit, so
yeah. It actually feels awkward though when I'm running through at least Rogue Galaxy levels. I feel like they're never adequately designed for these fights, so it actually just doesn't help.
I feel like that's why they're so fucking big. They just need to have literal space for it. Playing Tales of Zestiria and Berseria too, some of the areas are just big so that if you get into an encounter with the enemy placements, you're not held back by the space you're in.
But Kingdom Hearts considers here's the room we're in. This is what enemies are going to be in this room because you're going to be fighting them in this room, and that's.
But no, this is just a random better. As hell. Here's a corridor with a bunch of pillars in it, and also here's 3 golem type enemies. Fuck you.
And it quite apart from some of the areas, the towers, for example, are quite cluttered in terms of just what's lying around in the level terrain. Every time an encounter starts, it drops a bunch of additional clutter in because there's a throw mechanic. We haven't mentioned the throw mechanic. No. It's pointless. You can pick up clutter and throw it. You can pick up enemies and throw it for moderate amounts of damage if they hit anything. And mostly what happens is you'll just be lining up an attack, and then one of your party members will pick up the enemy you're about to attack and run off with it.
I think the idea behind throwing is that you can do it when your AP gauge is charging, but you're never going to do it because it's clunky and stupid.
Yeah,
it's just really hard to activate.
Well, it just doesn't work, and you need to be really close, and
yeah, it's not good. Basically every facet of this game's mechanics is just a clusterfuck of bad decisions.
There's also just a ton of things we keep saying. Well, we didn't mention this because I don't want to mention Insectron. I don't want to mention the Frog Log. I don't want to
mention the factory that you own. Holy shit!
This is a pioneer in garbage content for conten's sake. None of this stuff it doesn't have any bearing on what you're doing in the game or why you're doing it. It's just there for you to have something to do, and it's the worst video game access.
That's basically it, right? There's just instead of trying to make any kind of focused experience, what they've done is just made every idea they had to the limit of what the budget would allow, which is none of them get enough time.
Okay, also, like, I think this is from that era in the PS2 era where basically a lot of people are just like, oh, I want to buy this video game and I want it to last me fucking forever. Because this was before, like, the glut of video games that were like, oh, we have too many video games really got started. The development, at least, of this probably started like that before that hit. But, like, this is the sort of thing that you could buy and probably spend 120, 150 hours on 100%ing without, like, game FAQ stuff.
Yeah. In a way, it's a bit FF10.
Yeah.
And FF12 as well. FF12 has bucket loads of content, but FF12 basically only has one mode of interaction for the entire game, which is the combat system. Yeah. Whereas FF10 has mini-games coming out of its ears.
Also, like...
It's just that FF10's mini-games are good.
Yeah. In comparison to this.
We'll have this fight on the podcast eventually.
But basically, the post-game even, you get to go to this place called the Ghost Ship, and it's like, okay, here's an extra post-game dungeon. That's not so bad. Then you have to do a quiz. No, this is... I didn't even know this. There's a quiz that you can do, and if you get 7 answers right, and it's just about random shit from the game, like, oh, what did this character yell as the Dorking Go was crashing? Or, yeah, the Dorgan arc. That's a...
True Real Galaxy fans only.
Yeah, but basically, like, if you do that, you unlock Ghost Ship Extreme, which is a 100-floor randomized dungeon. Here's the kicker. In order to get all the collectibles and shit in the game, you have to beat that fucking dungeon twice. This game...
Wow.
This game is made of dungeons that are too big. This is a 100-floor dungeon. The biggest dungeon in the main game is 8 floors? Maybe like fucking 12 if you put together all the shit in the labyrinth. But like, 100 floors, do it twice. There's no guide for this. It's just random.
The ultimate reward's like a swimsuit for Kasala, which is like...
Yep.
That's your priorities, okay.
Yeah. This game is maximalism to a T. There's an entire fucking minigame none of us touched where you can fucking make bugs fight, and you have to go out and catch bugs like you're in fucking Metal Gear Solid 3 hunting for the Tsuchinoko. Like, what is this shit?
I don't even know how it plays, because when I tried to catch a bug, like, I left for a second, came back, the bug ate my bait, and I'm just like... I'm like, am I supposed to, like, stand there and check every couple seconds? I don't get this. Why is it like this? And so I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, so, progression systems, then. Apart from, like, leveling up, which is tediously slow and doesn't actually feel very effective.
Yeah.
The other progression system is kind of like FF12's license board-ish.
For all the like the dumb garbage that the Revelation system is and lends to, I think it's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, I'm much in the same boat. Like, so I think what the game is actually reaching for, if it can be said to be reaching for anything mechanically, is it's a loot-based game, right? And that manifests in a couple of things. It manifests in the factory shop economy system, which is broken and we'll get to, and it manifests in the revelation flow, which is, for every character, they've got a kind of grid of tiles, and you have to complete the tiles by putting in the right combination of items, some of which are like heal or recovery items, and some of which are just random loot items of varying degrees of rarity. And this can unlock new moves or upgrade moves, or there are stat boosts. And it's an interesting idea, but it's also very, very easy to become walled because of a lack of items. There's not much decision making in that, like, there's never a choice of item for a given tile. You have to have exactly the right item, and it has to go in that exact spot.
The way it's implemented, it's like if you miss a treasure chest, you can just lose out on a character skills.
Yeah.
I missed Alluring Lamps, I guess, in Vidan, and so my Digo and Lilica just had less skills than everyone else for, like, the entire game.
Yeah.
Yep.
I am less fond of it because I've played a better version of it that was more keyed into the game in question's themes, and that was Monokemia, which is a game about going to school to become an alchemist and creating things. And basically, that worked kind of like the sphere grid in Final Fantasy X, or like the license board-ish, kind of like Revelation Flow. Basically, you had to craft items, and if you crafted items, you unlock nodes on this board of like items, and then you could have upgrades from each little node. It worked for that because the entire game was about making items, and I at least felt like playing that game kind of necessitates being in the mindset where like, oh, I want to make this thing, so it wasn't like a problem if it was like, oh, I haven't made this thing yet. I should have made it a while ago, and this character is kind of clogged up with, like, experience that they need to channel into shit. So I should just, like, I should do that. But this one, it's just you have to go fight shit in a different planet and hope that they drop the shit, or find a shop list and buy the thing you need from an earlier planet.
Yeah, so kind of before my last stream, one of the things I did was literally go around every shop in the game and buy all the Revelation items that I could lay hands on without having a Platinum shop license, because fuck knows I'm not grinding for that. And yeah, it just, some items just weren't available that I needed. And okay, endgame, you're not short on money. I spent less than a third of what I had amassed, but also it just, I mean, it felt like they'd tried to put in a bypass for it and hadn't even managed to do that right, to be honest. And if you want to max out your Revelation Flow, eventually you're just going to have to go and grind for some rare drops.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that can be for, like, to unlock half of a character's board. Yeah, it's not just like, oh, get the last super souped up rare stuff. It's core stuff you can just need to go and grind for.
I basically didn't have 2/3 of Jupus's skills until chapter 12, which is...
I didn't have 2/3 of them at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, like, if there was any appeal to Rogue Galaxy when it came out, it would be completely eclipsed by any MMORPG, because they do, like, the buckets of content just better. And if you want to go farm for a rare drop, you know, it feels better in that online environment than it does just on your own in a dumb game.
Or just, like, playing Diablo.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about these items, I like the multifaceted nature of any one item. Like, one item could be, you could use it in the factory, you could use it in your Revelation Flow, you could use it to get bugs, you could use it in your, sometimes you need to use them in the hunts to summon certain bosses, and like one item can like go into all these different things, and so that like dramatically changes a person's playthrough. But it's just, the problem is that every application of an item is just really boring and pointless.
Yeah. And like something else, a different kind of spin on that could be like the selection of items is quirky, right?
Yeah.
There's a range. Some of them are just random word salad, but some of them, like one of them is like old socks are an item.
It's the captain's sock, which implies that Dorgan Go has spread his dirty old used socks across the fucking galaxy, and they're pertinent.
That's literally the most believable thing in this entire game's lore.
And that Kisala needs to go collect them so that she can throw them at enemies as an attack.
Yep. And they could have lent into that and had it be charming, but there's nothing.
Yeah, there were some character-specific things, like when you get the pirate coin on Jaster, or Digo's one you can only use at the end for a mediocre Tritech or whatever it is.
It's just a fucking buff that lasts like just 20 seconds.
Oh wait, it's the one with Zegram, right?
No. It's just a buff. It's Digo. He flips the coin in the air, and then fucking Gale appears and like points his gun at the coin, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna die." And then you get boosted.
I don't think I guess I just didn't even get it because I never used it.
Yeah, I used it in the Final Fantasy. It was like, hey, a buff when I need to punch this stupid hand a whole bunch, and then it died after like 18 seconds. And I was just like, well, fuck this. Because buffs in this game that don't literally have a bar on them are useless.
They don't last that long, so...
So, the buffs that do have... Some buff spells, they put up a bar, and the bar is only depleted by actually attacking using the buff. So some of them are not time-limited, which I like, but also... randomly some buffs are time-limited instead, and the visual indicators for when they wear off are really bad.
Also, if you have a bar buff up, and you cast a time-limited one up, it will consume the bar. It will say, all right, the other buff's going away. You get this one now.
Yeah, if you use any ability, like, you want to use lightning, but you have twin sword up, it's going to consume that. And you're just like, well, I want to make this guy stagger, so lightning, I guess. Thanks. More AP lost.
Then I'm going to cast twin sword again.
Yeah.
That's just like, it's just pointless, because it's actually not difficult to cast all the spells again. It just takes time, and it's just like, why you do this to me?
Yeah.
And there's no skip animation option. You just have to do it manually every time. So you just mash triangle and then accidentally pull up the menu and
And it's not even like the depletion counts for anything either, because AP recovery items are pretty cheap.
And they fully restore your AP from the beginning.
Yep.
I think I might have said it before in the episode, but I've definitely said it before in streams. The biggest tell that they didn't understand how combat is supposed to work is that the most easily accessible and the earliest healing you get restores half of your health, and that's they don't understand that, like, you shouldn't need to chug those constantly even at the start, but you do.
It's like, I mean, I guess they're just trying to do a different, assuming they knew what they're doing, they're trying to do a different kind of feel and stakes to the JRPG, but the experiment failed. Like, it sucks.
Yeah.
There's fighting enemies that can kill you, but then you just heal right back to full, so actually nothing happened. It's just, it's a null. Nothing happened.
Yeah, in kind of late stage Mists of Pandaria in WoW, there was this problem where the tanking abilities got so good that basically all they could do for game design to keep the tanks and healers busy was every special move that a boss did was designed to do, like,
tank buster damage.
Kind of 85% of a tank's HP in a single hit every time. And you just watch the health bars go down, up, down, up, down, up, the whole fight. It's just...
I am really glad that Final Fantasy XIV is not at Limitless Tank Buster yet. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, at least WoW has the excuse of that was an emergence from 10 years of like,
power creep.
Trends in development.
And like, the thing where they can't have enough HP on the thing, so they just have it regen every phase or something like that.
Yeah, so what happened with that one, because that's worth preserving, is... like the final boss of Pandaria on the highest difficulty mode on 25-man, the health value he needed to have for game balance exceeded the limit of the data type that they use for health values. I think it just they didn't have enough bits in the health value, so basically he had to heal 20% at the end of every phase. Which, yeah,
fucking incredible. Like,
WoW has some weird hard-coded issues from like 10 years ago.
Yeah, like the closest thing that Final Fantasy XIV has done so far, and yes, I'm going to end up talking about Final Fantasy XIV on this podcast, I guess. There's a boss that has like 2 stacks of auto life and goes through different phases, because that was just a neat thing to do, and it's not super necessary for like making the game not explode every computer in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, like, kind of MMO talk isn't irrelevant, because this is... like Leroy mentioned, it's kind of already pulling from a kind of MMO-ish sort of thing, and coming out alongside FF12, which is not only kind of MMO-ish in a way, but also directly building on some of FF11's systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was clearly a bit of a moment in game design, right? And you can understand why from kind of... this game was released in Japan in 2005, which is... when, like, that was the big initial rush of WoW. It wasn't WoW's peak subscription, but it was kind of during the really big outpouring of like WoW coming out, and then lots of things trying to chase the WoW money. So in a way, it's understandable that single player games absorbed some shit from MMOs. Like, there are ways to do that, and also there are ways that don't work.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of this game having Insectron in it is weird, because that's actually anticipatory, because WoW 3 expansions later added Pokemon for some reason, and like, I don't know what kind of Guild Wars and the other pre-WoW MMOs were like for that kind of side questy stuff, but it's easy to imagine that was part of it.
I could probably have some input on RuneScape, but I don't have all of RuneScape's history committed to memory, because I didn't actually start playing until like 2005. So,
Ragnarok would be the sort of popular one in Japan, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. Let's not... let's not get too deep into MMO, because that just reminds me that we never did the Final Fantasy 14 Eorzean Odyssey like recap wrap up thing that we should have done a year ago.
If people want to know our opinions on FF14, they can watch the streams. It's fine.
Yeah, most of them are still up on YouTube. But yeah. Do we want to kind of summarize the plot so we can say why it's ostensibly about space piracy, but not?
Oh god, where do you even start?
You know what this plot actually reminded me of? And it was definitely worse than, but it reminded me of Breath of Fire 2 in that it's weirdly it becomes about grooming this character to fulfill a destiny that, like, was done by his parents, but he didn't know it. But, like... I don't know. Maybe it's not just because it's a 3D RPG. It's also because it's a bad RPG. But it just felt really uncanny when it popped up in Rogue Galaxy. Because also it was not foreshadowed at all. So it's just like, hey, you're the legendary Demon Slayer. Well, good luck.
This game does not understand foreshadowing at all. Even the things. So most of its foreshadowing is spent on side characters, right? It does loads of foreshadowing for Simon and Steve.
Sorry. It's just like what the foreshadowing amounts to and how it happens in the story is like all-time worst.
It's
hilariously bad. Just like cutscenes and storytelling in a video game.
Yeah. Anyway, you play as Jaster Rogue, because he's just a rogue, get it? Who is
What's that
Luke
the
Skywalker.
Joke? Because, like, if that was actually the joke, I'm gonna have to dock this game another, like, 20 points and put it at, like, negative 35.
That sounds actually... Jasta Rogue. Yeah, no, it actually...
I've made that joke before. How isn't it obvious?
I hadn't heard it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it either.
He's just a rogue, she's just a galaxy.
Oh. You couldn't have made it any more obvious.
I literally used that in one of my streams.
I didn't process it, though, because, like, it's a fucking bad pun, and I usually have my brain off for those.
That's the game. But yeah, I mean, he's just a rogue. And he's Luke Skywalker. He comes from a desert planet. He's raised by somebody who is not his biological father, in this case a priest, because there's also a weird kind of attempt at a Western vibe, but with kind of Middle Eastern clothing going on. He makes a living hunting.
He's on a slave planet too, except you don't see what that means, or who is controlling the planet or why. But
it's resolved off screen.
It happens off screen and is resolved off screen.
It says at the start of the game, this is a slave planet that has recently been taken over by the Longardian Empire.
Longardian.
Who
are fighting the Draxol Empire.
You've never seen either of these empires in the game.
It's completely irrelevant to this stupid story, but like pirates in the middle of war.
But it's also not irrelevant. Like they talk about all the time about how they're at war and they're doing this because they're at war and this is happening because it's at war.
It's only relevant in that Datron exists.
Yeah, I know.
Presumably the war was going to be explored in the sequels after this had beaten Final Fantasy.
Oh my god.
You know it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nowhere else for them to go.
I mean, he's literally king of all stars. So, like, he just like, hey, war's over. That was apparently, like, literally what happened. He's just like, no, war's done now.
I mean, I think it was actually implied, now we're just getting way to the end, it was implied that the fact that Mary Glenn came back the way it was supposed to be, the war never happened. That's what it seemed to be implying. It's like, you fixed the balance of the galaxy, so now war never happened. And it's just like, yeah, sure.
Yay, time travel. We haven't got to time travel yet. So the opening to it is you get home from hunting like ostriches in the desert or whatever, baby ostriches in the desert, and the town that you live in is attacked by a giant like dragonfly wasp thing, and a mysterious stranger shows up and fights it with you and then leaves his sword with you, which leads to the legendary pirate Dorgan Goer's henchmen thinking you are the mysterious stranger, who is called Desert Claw, by the way, and is a monster hunter. And because you've got Desert Claw's sword, they think you're Desert Claw, and they take you to Dorgan Goer, via a random
Wait, I
encounter
gotta
with
say, we're
sandworms.
talking about people named Jaster Rogue and Desert Claw, but the henchmen are named Simon and Steve.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Steve is a robot.
Steve.
Voiced by Yuri Lowenthal.
Simon, it turns out, is a human, but it's really hard to establish this until the game just tells you.
I guess he's a cyber. Actually, I always thought he was wearing a suit, but I guess that was
He's wearing a spacesuit.
Right. But his face is supposed to be cyborgish, and his suit's supposed.
No,
yeah.
He just has an enormous hat.
No, if he
has an enormous nose.
changes costume, it's the same face.
Yeah, but you also get his normal ass human clothes, and he just has a face.
I never got those clothes, but
yeah, it's the most optional thing for him. I think you have to beat the Insectron cup twice or something stupid like that.
That sounds non-canon because he was describing in his dumb flashback that his face was
also
permanently
this is fucking level 5.
His face was permanently disfigured, so I was like, okay, I guess he's a cyborg. I guess.
He's not a cyborg, he's just being an idiot because level 5 doesn't know how to fucking write anything, and they just let him be normal-ass show. It's dumb. I've seen he just has a normal face if you wear those clothes, and he's just wearing that to hide his face constantly. Because he doesn't
why
want
would they write the plot about him
because
getting
they're
exploded?
dumb motherfuckers and don't know how to write anything.
No, so there's either their plot isn't real or the skin isn't real, basically. Either way, it's dumb, but
Yeah. Or the idea is that you get so good at fighting bugs and training bugs that you can train the bugs to fix his face.
Just
with
punch
bug surgery.
Punch the bed's
you
face
get
off.
so famous, he gets some plastic surgery.
Oh god. Anyway, yeah, you get onto Dorkengo's ship and you don't reveal that you are not Desert Claw. You go along with it because it's your chance to leave the planet.
Also, you don't meet Dorkengoa because that would apparently give you away because he knows Desert Claw.
That's right. Dorkengoa is asleep.
He's in a food coma because fat characters.
He's asleep for ever because that's funny.
And his first mate, who is an annoying cat, doesn't know any better, so takes you on, and then you set off in search of something?
No,
you're out of fuel.
What was happening was they were going to Vidan to renew. No,
They're going to
Zerard.
That's the fucking planet. To get their
the most advanced planet in the galaxy.
To get their fucking galactic travel visa renewed. Then they run out of fuel and crash on desert or jungle planet Juraika.
The jungle planet Jungle.
Which is primitive enough that it doesn't have starship refueling stations.
But also advanced enough that they are part of the intergalactic or the galactic economy.
And
have
mean,
transporters and shit.
This is a cynical point, but if Juraika has the resources to create star fuel, how come it isn't colonized, or how come it isn't the slave planet? I'm not saying they should have done that, but it just kind of it sticks out as we want to preserve this theme park racist whatever.
The rationale given is that the actual people refuse to.
And apparently Datron and everyone respect that, but I guess we just don't know anything about the Federation.
And it's only been for 100 years or something like that they've refused to do that?
Understand how the Alliance even works because they don't care about their history in their game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you go to the jungle planet where there is a plot involving look at this primitive religion that is going to sacrifice a child to appease their god that isn't actually a god, and then you win by killing the god, and then they all decide that yes, they've been wrong to remain locked in the past and they must change.
Except no, they don't until after you leave and
at the very least, because these plots can go worse. It's revealed to be inner politics, and they've known forever that it's not really been like that, but they've been using it that way. My only analogy for this, the Catholic Church did in the Dark Ages, and I was like, okay, the inner politics part is okay, everything else is racist.
Yeah, it's definitely it's appealing to a racist kind of backdrop to make it work. Anyway, you crash, you need fuel, you somehow get fuel even though all the plants that you need to harvest the fuel from have died out due to vaguely defined ecological catastrophe.
No, I think they just harvested all of it.
They don't really say either way. They're just it's not there, we can't find it, until Zegram finds it and doesn't tell you where he finds it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really the reason you can't find it is just so you don't leave. So you do the whole plot.
Don't succeed, so you have to do it, yeah.
And then you get to Coruscant, the most advanced planet in the galaxy. It's not actually called Coruscant.
It's Zerard.
Zerard.
As we established
Yeah.
earlier.
Go to Zerard. It's a name.
They literally repeatedly use the phrase "the most advanced planet in the galaxy" as if that
Or the most
could possibly
civilized.
mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one too. And it's just like, that doesn't mean anything. What are
They
you
do-
talking about?
They do a CG at the beginning where they show all the flying cars and stuff. But then when you step on the planet, it just looks like
A normal ass city.
It looks like Phantasy Star 1 turned into 3D, and it looks like 80s interpretation of futurism, which isn't that much future, actually. It didn't look very advanced at that point.
It looked like
Yeah.
a place if you could probably, aside from like looking up and seeing the fuck off towers that you're gonna have to climb eventually, it looked like a place that could probably exist in real life.
And it looked like,
Yeah.
or if it's just if a normal-ass fantasy could have a city like this. Like, this could be an elf city. It just didn't feel like
Yeah.
anything like they're
The
describing.
thing that really sets it off, I think, is that there's kind of like ornamental flower beds and flower pots and stuff everywhere. It's a nice bucolic little urban scene. It doesn't feel futuristic at all.
There's also only 3 destinations: capitalism, prison, and factory.
Wait, and Insectron.
Yeah. There's
Bug
4.
sports.
Blood
and
sports.
haunted ghost towers for some reason.
That's past capitalism. Just take a right. God.
Yeah, you gotta go inside the Datron Corp, and out in their backyard is the ghost towers. I gotta say, Zerard of all the environments feels the most uncanny. It felt like a Sonic 06 level. Like,
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
it just-
Or-
all the NPCs are just like, they don't do anything, and when you talk to them, they don't say anything that like is relevant, and nothing feels lived in or natural. It's like really abstract and weird. But the game's narrative and like the way it behaves toward the space is that it's lived in planet where everyone is competently happy or something. But then it's just like this weird empty ghost town.
Yeah. And so you get there and you spend something like the next 8 hours of the game just trying to get this pass renewed.
Because you get framed by Zegrim for no reason.
Yeah, he frames you and gets you thrown in prison for no reason. And then when you get out of prison, you escape prison and aren't recaptured and you don't have to leave the planet or anything. As soon as you're out, you're safe.
Yeah, because you killed
They
the
also-
fucking... Oh my god.
You kill the warden.
Yeah, you killed the
That's
warden.
true, yeah.
You're
And nothing
free.
happens to you. Yeah, that's how it works. If you kill the warden, just get out of jail. That's it. You've defeated our warden. We can't put you back in prison.
You've solved my prison puzzle. The solution was murder. Again.
But they also like put a lot of emphasis on this character who's the general of the Longardian army. And he's like literally in one other cutscene. He looks like he's just like this intense Yoda like character who's either going to mentor you or be relevant later in the plot, and he's not.
He never fucking...
He vanished.
I'm actually mad now that I've realized that he never made another appearance. Like,
He
the war just
made
gets
one.
solved off
He made
screen.
one more appearance where they were selling battleships to
Yeah.
the Zerardian
I was
Emperor or
thinking
something.
after that, but like after that, just, the war just ends without fucking like. Oh my god, I hate
And the
this game.
Catman's like, we don't need these ships. It'll prolong the war. But then, like, the Emperor can't talk except by whispering. Then he whispers, I want 1 million of the ships.
Fuck yeah, the shit's sweet. Give me some.
Yeah, so you get into prison, you get out of prison, and you get back to the desk to renew your thingy. And
But oh no, the
they
computers
still-
are broken.
Well, the computers are broken to start with, right?
Yeah.
That's why there's the misunderstanding in the first place, and then you get framed by the
Zegrim
explosion,
and
blah, blah, blah.
Mio and
Yeah.
ugh.
But the computers are all out because there is a hacker loose in the Datron Corporation building, because this is a basically a corporate-run government.
And in the
And-
most futuristic planet of all time, they get defeated by one rogue hacker.
named
Yep.
Jupus Tukey McGannell. Holy shit.
Jupus Tukey McGannell. I still can't fucking reconcile myself to the existence of that name in a video game.
Also, the dude just
they,
throws
they always
frisbees.
they always say his full name too, like in a super moving emotive cutscene where he realizes he's an asshole. They're like, Jupus Tukey McCannell, and I just started laughing. I will always be your partner, Jupus Tukey McCannell.
Yeah. And he's mad because he was fired for something or other because his research assistant spotted a problem with his research and he wasn't listening to the research assistant, so the research assistant sabotaged it by pouring coffee on his computer, which blew up.
Yeah, but he spent the entire game like, no, my old assistant was an asshole and got me fired. I was going to solve, like, the God equation and present the grand unified theory. But no, he fucked up, apparently. And also, presenting the grand unified theory would have, like, caused a lot of people to die? Like, what experiment would do that for an equation? Like,
I think it was supposed to, like, unlock a new stage of space travel is what they were alluding to.
Yeah.
But, like, when they would test it out, people would. I guess the ship would just explode. I don't know how it would feel.
Yeah, it's
something bad.
Oh no, I didn't carry the tube. Boo.
But yeah, you go beat up Jupus Tuki McGinnell and get rewarded with a factory.
I know. I just want to say, like, yeah, this is like 8, 9, 10 hours to just 2 dungeons, and they're just like the longest dungeons filled with like rooms. They repeat rooms, like literally the same exact room. You encounter
but one side is the exit instead of the other, and it's just like
not even like that. Sometimes it's literally the same room with the same entrance and the same exit. That happens in the prison like twice, and I'm just like, this is the same. I went through this room already. We don't need it again. Why are we doing this again?
Yep. So you fight Jupus, and as a reward for stopping him, you are awarded a factory. Like
the only factory, it seems, in the entire city,
in the entire galaxy.
And like, you are a pirate, but now you are also a capitalist.
You're a pirate,
and the game just has no sense of any of the kind of symbolism or history behind the concepts of ownership of the means of production, or piracy as a role within an economy, or privateering, or any of that stuff. It's just meaningless labels attached to aesthetics.
Piracy is individuous rebellion, basically. That's how it manifests. But you own a factory. you just killed the warden, broke out of prison, and then you get a factory. It's like,
Yeah.
And then the hacker joins your party. Fuck him.
Yeah, and then the hacker. Yeah. Also, we should mention that the factory is an entire like
minigame,
Infinifactory type minigame with you can design production line layouts to specific blueprints, which you collect from random strangers in the world who have a yellow blob over their heads, and it's finicky as hell. And there's only about 40 plans, and there's no synergy between them at all. There's no, like, you can't set it to produce and go away and the things spit out. Once you've successfully produced something, it becomes available in shops.
I mean, like, there's no tutorial, so you don't know what you're doing, but basically, like, if you want to use the factory, you're going to be spending an hour or 2 hours just making one item that's useless. So...
Yeah, unless you look up the solutions, in which case it takes 20 minutes to set it all up anyway. Trust me, I made like 3 items, and it increased my playtime by like 2 hours.
I made the first item. I don't know, because that's just like, I want to see how this factory works. I made it. It's like, I didn't, never again. But I needed to make another item for one of the quarries, because I did all of them. Just have to, for one of them, you have to craft a certain sword. And so I made the sword and was able to do the quarry on Mary Glenn.
Incredible.
Yeah. Anyway, you get the factory, and
I think it's actually really funny when you're like, Seagram's like, I don't want a factory, I want the money, and Jester's like, yeah, why don't we get the money? Then one character, I don't remember if it's Steve or Simon, they go, wait, have you thought about what it means to have a factory and all the things you could do? And then they just like say some dumb thing about making items, and then you have a factory. Okay.
I think it was Steve, because like, his dad was the fucking manager at the factory, and he didn't want his dad to have a job again or something. Like, I don't. Ugh.
Guys, factories are amazing.
That's fucking Yosuke, you little shit.
Anyway, once you've recruited Jupus and you've got your like pass that you need, Dorgangoa reveals finally what he's been recruiting all this stuff and building all these resources to do, which is find the lost planet of Eden.
Dorgangoa is also like he's a horrible character.
Mm-hmm. And then you basically fuck off around the galaxy.
You go to ancient ruins that exist still for some reason.
Well, the first thing you do is you go to Verdan, which is the mining planet.
Oh yeah, right.
Dug up like a cross between a 2001 monolith and the Zohar from Xenosaga.
A tablet. A space tablet.
A space tablet that is the size of a city block.
On the planet that provides 40% of all minerals to the galaxy. Like,
To the whole
what
galaxy.
the fuck?
The planet is just a big rock.
Well, that's what all planets tend to be.
Okay, a big rock of just precious minerals.
Pretty much.
I mean, it might as well be like an artificial planet, because that doesn't even make sense, but whatever.
But why would they just not take the materials to... Oh my god.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So, Verdan has this kind of... It's trying to do this noirish, like, old soldiers story, which is maybe the most coherent that the game gets. It's not a good story, and the ending is completely ridiculous.
I saw someone compare it to fucking Cowboy Bebop, and I was just
I appreciate the
vaguely...
ending, because there's like, they actually tried really hard. There's the vocal theme going on, their camera angles are on point. I'm like, I'm going to give this one to them.
Yeah, like, it's the thing where you feel like, okay, somebody actually had an idea for a whole bunch of stuff adding up to this. And it, like...
I mean, the characters
it's closer to work.
They have like motivations for once. There's stakes that have to do with the place you're in for once. There's
and the
weight
place,
to the
like,
actions
the place
you
has
do
a good
for once.
aesthetic as well.
Yeah,
the kind of it's not. It doesn't go full Blade Runner, but it's got a kind of futuristic, industrial, very kind of brutal feel to the spaces. That means that if the gangsters weren't 20s mobsters with literal Tommy guns, it'd be more convincing. But they're 20s mobsters in pinstriped suits.
I mean, it's still Real Galaxy, yeah.
Yeah, that does kind of... It's the closest the game gets to working. And then you go into the dungeon and it's just a mine.
I mean, I guess there's an actual feeling there, because you get to... Yeah, coherent, that's the word. It communicates midlife crisis and feeling betrayed by the state. And, like, what do I do from there? What do I do as an individual? And, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so you go into the mine, and you don't get the tablet because you're beaten to it by the Datron Corporation.
I mean, you don't get a tablet because you don't have a ship that can go grab the tablet like they do. It's like you don't even really know what you're doing there, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're there following a rumour, and the other guys come better prepared because they have a ship that is capable of lifting a tablet the size of a city block.
Because they're planning on buying it, so they gotta have the tablet.
But then the characters react like,
ship.
oh, dang, we got beat to the tablet, because we would have totally got it if they weren't there.
Yeah. And the tablet is then taken to the first set of ancient ruins, where there is a socket for it.
And apparently on the way there, they, like... I don't know what the deal was with fucking Seed, because Seed shows up immediately after, and I guess, like... I forget if
it wasn't from that tablet, it was from a different tablet.
But like, there's the tablet, and then there's the ruins on Rosa, which are basically just the tablet socket, which I guess also had the fucking genetic code of the Star King on it, oh god. I hate this game.
Yeah, but anyway, the tablet opens up and it gives you signals indicating that it needs 3 trinkets, which for some reason are zodiac signs, but only 3 of the zodiac signs, which coincidentally happen to be the same. Apparently, there used to be a king for every zodiac sign in the galaxy.
3 of them.
No, it says
they said there were 12
there are
Zodiac
12
Kings.
planets in the galaxy that are like habited and have histories, and these 3 are just the relevant ones for some reason.
And they just happen to be planets you've already visited.
And specifically, all planets you got party members from who know enough about their local history to be like, oh shit, I recognize that from my local history, and that is the entire reason Jupus exists.
Yep.
I mean, but Simon should be able to do it too, honestly. There's actually no reason Jupus exists. But yeah.
But he's trying to hide his past or whatever. I don't fucking know.
I mean, but when you get there to Zerard, he's like, oh guys, I came from Zerard. Let's hang out. I'm going to show you the place.
Dumb.
And then he sees his wife. He's like, "Oh no, guys, I'm feeling kind of sick. I'm gonna send Steve over."
Fucking god, I hate that entire storyline. I call it a line, but it's just 2 points. Like it's the beginning and the end.
At least running into his wife, like where they live, that makes sense. When he runs into his wife in the middle of the ancient ruins on Jerica. That doesn't make any sense.
Or the sandstorm on Rosa, or the fucking...
They're in the deadliest desert. Whatever. They're like, this is the desert where people always die, and then you go in there, and then Simon's wife's there looking for him. Where is Daddy? Is he in this desert where people die? I don't know, baby.
Like, that was supposed to be, like, a quote-unquote touching story, but I just laughed every time they showed up because, like, oh, no, they got bowled over by mobsters. Oh, no, they're in this ruin of death and an ancient witch. Oh, no, they're in the desert. What the fuck
The point is that they're communicating either that Simon's wife knew where Simon was and she was following him, or she was like hearing rumors of where Simon was or going to be and was trying to investigate those rumors. But either way, it's just the most ridiculous thing ever, and I just laughed every single time at a certain point.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that gives you 3 locations to go to, each of which is a really long... Well, no, actually, one of them is a really long, complicated dungeon, one of them is a long, complicated dungeon, and one of them is fairly benign. You do those, each of which has its own subplot, none of which are worth mentioning, except for the bit where the Twin Towers...
It's worth mentioning because they're so bad. They are so dumb and obnoxious and bad. Like, the whole part where you investigate the ruins doesn't need to be in the game. You know, you could just put the tablet in and, oh, wow, the labyrinth opened. That's cool. So this is like obvious padding. But on top of it being obvious padding, they like force in these little subplots about ancient rulers where something bad happened. But they tell you these plots entirely through narrative flashbacks. Or if not even a narrative flashback, they just say what happened in like 3 sentences and they make it seem tragic. And it's like, eh.
Also, like, it was when I really started to notice that the game was paced like a Mega 10 on, like, with someone just turned the speed down to, like, 20% speed. It was just like, yeah, I'm going to go through this Mega 10 game in, like, molasses.
I mean,
ugh.
So what it's there to do is space out the arc of Seed's involvement in the plot. Seed is basically evil Jaster, or an evil clone of Jaster, or something like that. The details aren't really important.
I think it's more interesting if you think of Seed as like an artificial new type, and Jaster's also a new type, because that's not as stupid as... Like, I want to believe Star God is an ancient mutant human instead of the one random actual god, because that's... Okay, anyways.
Yeah, it kind of... The game is vague about exactly how it works.
They're aliens instead of star gods, because that's less stupid.
and through this you have various encounters with Seed, and Desert Claw shows up to save you, and then you get back to the tablet, and there's a sequence of... No, Zegram betrays you again.
Zegram
steals the trinkets, goes to turn them over, finds out that he's been misled because his cookie cutter tragic backstory is going to stay tragic.
There was actually an implication that Zegram already knew he was being... He knew he's misled since the prison sequence, even though he wasn't there at the prison. But he already knew he's misled, so the implication is that he was going to fight Datron by himself so they don't get hurt, which is like actually tone deaf. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't even fit with Zegram's motivation, because
it doesn't.
He's the one... But anyway...
I mean, they're trying to say he's the secret tough guy who actually cares the most, but he's not.
he does get the Drigellum of love, and I vomited. Anyway.
We haven't even got to Drigellums
yet.
No,
we haven't.
Whatever.
Anyway, the trinkets allow you to open the gate, which unlocks a puzzle, which Seed tries to solve and can't because he's not actually a perfect copy, because for no fucking reason the Datron Corporation, when they were making him, injected him with Rune, which is this vague dark magic power that's been mentioned occasionally, and all it does is corrupt him so that he can't perfectly solve the puzzle.
Instead of Rune being a dark magic power, because that's also dumb, it's easier to think about it as a different kind of alien. It's more like, it's like a hive mind sentient matter.
Give in to the dumb, Leroy. It's also dark magic. You cannot save this game.
Stop trying to lure this.
I mean, but that's what it is, right? It's like an alien that takes over planets, but they don't even know how to. They don't even know how to talk. They're in space, and they don't know how to talk about it. They say it's an evil magic thing that they can't figure out when it's obviously an alien.
Yes, but also you're giving the game... Yeah. Seed can't open it and snaps, and then you kill... Snaps and turns into a centaur, and then you kill him. And then Jaster opens it after the Datron people have gone, shit, well, we don't know what to do now. I want to add
that the puzzles... The scene for solving the puzzle is like 5 minutes. It takes 5 minutes of the character Jaster or Seed just waving his hands in the air at this actually giant... fills your entire screen like Rubik's Cube, and he's just they're just waving their hands for like 5
I'm
minutes.
still severely pissed off that with all the mini games, we don't actually get to solve the puzzle myself. Like, I was looking forward to that. I wanted to see what the fuck they were going to do with it. And it was like, nope, cutscene.
It's
time to flex her CG. We're going to... with this giant...
That
probably took a long time to animate, because there's a lot of animated moving parts going on. And it's like, just underwhelming and dumb, but I guess that's Rogue Galaxy.
Yep. And that opens up not the gate to Eden, but the gate to the labyrinth where the key of Eden awaits.
The gate to the labyrinth where there's one solitary robot waiting for anyone to solve the puzzle.
And then you get the key and you can't use it immediately because, is it...
Desert Claw.
Claw blocks the lock to force you to go to the desert where you can go to the ghost town where your mother lives, except she's not alive anymore.
The magical Mirage Town that stopped in time.
Which you only find out about because Datron is attacking the town you're in, and your foster dad gets killed and goes like, oh, take this amulet, it will tell you where to go, and then you follow it, and then go to that fucking desert town from Vesperia, but in a worse game.
It is the desert town from Vesperia, but in a worse game.
Ro actually dies for no reason except to, like...
be tragic. Like,
yeah.
He dies because the hero's mentor has to die at that stage in the story.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like, basically.
I mean, as soon as you saw Raoul in like the first scene he's in, you knew he was going to die.
I want to add the scene with Casala and Jaster after he died could have been. I mean, I guess it couldn't have been anything because it's Rogue Galaxy. But Jaster's dad basically dies, and Casala's like, "Wow, you're not normally like this. I can't believe you're so sad." And it's just like, what?
Yeah, and then she slaps him, and it's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
It's like, this dude's dad died. I think it's actually normal for someone to grieve for like 6 hours. It hasn't even been that long.
Yeah, it was like fucking 15 minutes. It felt like it's just like, why are you so sad? I mean, your dad died, but what the fuck, dude? Get over it. It's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And then then she slaps him, and it knocks him out of it because it also knocks the fucking amulet out of his hand, and he's just like, oh, this is my only keepsake. Oh shit, it's actually a treasure map. It's just like, what the fuck?
The healing power of the Gundam slap.
Jesus.
Oh god. Anyway, then you go to the desert and you stumble through the desert, which is this weird maze thing. You have to do 3 different.
It's not even a maze. It's just like, here's a figure 8, and you have to go through all sides of it, and then you go to the end, and oh look, the sandstorm stopped.
You have to go through all sides of it and answer questions correctly. Like, do you give
not being an asshole?
Do you give this guy who needs water some water? Yes or no? It's a pretty hard choice. I don't know.
Do you take this big bag of cash off this dead body with a note that says, hey, give this money to my wife? Oh, do you also give the wife the money?
It's a lot of money, I don't know.
A lot of money that isn't in my fucking wallet
and
now.
I can't use it. And I don't even know what gold is because we don't spend gold. We spend Zen.
and it's his dying gift to his wife. Like, that's what this... And loads of sentiment attaches to a bag of money.
Oh, I got this bag of money. Now I know how much she cared about me. Thank you.
And then you suck the poison out of a girl ghost's leg. And it's just like, okay, well, I guess we're good. Then now I'm going to go to the town and fight my mom ghost.
Well, you did these things that I can't believe no one would do these things. I don't think anyone would do these things. You can go on our side of town now. Can't believe you gave this parched man some water. No one would do that.
And yeah, you get to the town and you find your mother, and she says, now you must fight me to unlock your
She's a ghost.
True. Kind of. Like, she is the ghost of your mother, but also...
She's time-locked ghost.
She is
She's
dead.
A ghost.
She died giving birth to Jaster. She's a ghost.
Yeah. You fight your mom ghost. You unlock your superpowers.
Just like Naruto. It actually is just like Naruto. Okay, I guess in Naruto you fight your dad. He fights his dad inside the Ninetales. It's like the same thing.
Same difference, yeah. Christ.
And then you come back and unlock the path to Eden, and you go to Eden, and it turns out that Eden is a...
Can I talk about Johannesburg, or are we moving on? No, you didn't skip anything. I hate that place. Whatever.
I mean...
No,
have you got specific stuff you want to say about it?
We could just move on. I mean, I actually will just move on.
Yeah, there's total nonsense, kind of time loopy bullshit about it. It doesn't make any sense. We tried to rationalize it in our mod chat and couldn't get anywhere with it at all because it's completely intractable. Because I didn't think about it because I don't think about anything. Then you go to Eden, and it turns out that Eden is actually the lost planet Mariglen, where Kisala, who is the love interest lead female character, who is not a love interest in any way, except that there is a special move for which the description is Jaster and Kisala's love destroys the enemies or something.
Well, she's the love interest because she's the one that goes up to you when you're grieving about your dad and says, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah, heteronormativity as an attack, and also slapping you when you're grieving. That's love, baby.
It really is Gundam. But she's a princess. She's from this planet, which has been in this weird time.
Why are there so many princes and princesses in the future? I don't know. We actually revert back to monarchy actually when it hits like 10,000 years.
And then those monarchies last for a further 50,000.
Good news for all you neo monarchists out there. Rogue Galaxy is the game for you.
Also, why are you listening to this? Just Jesus.
Anyway, the reason the planet's been time-locked is because they accidentally discovered Mother, the source of all rune, or they came to be the host to Mother, the source of all rune. It's this bad alien.
We clarified that traveling
monster.
to Mariglen is actually traveling 10,000 years in the past to a time-suspended planet. That's what it means to travel to Mariglen, yeah.
And when they locked the planet in time, they sent Kisala out of the time lock to the 10,000 years in the future to find Jaster.
Because the prophecy said 10,000 years in the future, the Star God will be reborn, and they trusted this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then you go back into the past version of Mariglen and basically fight Mother.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit in between there, but, like, that's it.
The Dragellums.
For which you need to make the special sword that might have the power to destroy this invulnerable monster, for which you need the Dragellums, which are, like, the essence of a character's defining emotion, or something like that.
It's the strength of the memories inside the heart, and,
That's right.
And then you turn it into a sword, because JRPG.
Kisala has to fight the mother
Kisala
rune-infected
has to kill her dad.
Of her father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After murdering
all the other
her dad,
characters just have to go and have a cutscene,
after
which
she
is
murders
maybe
her dad,
a dream sequence.
she realizes that she loves everyone. It's touching.
Well, no, she doesn't get the Dragellum of love, though. I can't remember.
No, I know. She gets the one of compassion, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe,
that sounds right. It also sounds completely wrong, which is what I mean by right.
I mean, compassion does kind of fit Kisala's role in the story.
And also, she put her dad out of his misery.
Her role in the story is as role as any other girl in the story. That is to be a source of trauma for all the male characters and someone they want to protect at the same time. Like, that happens over and over and over again.
Compassion is slapping your grieving friend in the face and telling them to get over their dad's death, right? That's compassion.
She's also like the voice of conscience in where the ship goes and what it does.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, everyone assumes Jester's the conscience, except he doesn't say anything because he's a persona protagonist. He can't choose his lines. He'll say right, or he'll say back a question, like someone will ask him a question, and he'll just say the question back like he's Solid Snake. He's actually like doesn't exist. But
the most baffling thing is later on he starts to be the one delivering the lore dumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, only because he gets possessed by, like, God or Starking or whatever.
No, sometimes he just starts talking about things. Like,
yeah, that too. But
he's like, I know why this person feels this way, and he goes on his speech, and it's like, how do you know this? You don't know anything, actually. He's actually one of the worst main characters in a JRPG, probably, but only on a scale of just being extremely boring and non-existent. So
yeah,
it's like we've said on this cast that letting your protagonist speak is like a great solution to making better, but I guess there's a point where you can make your protagonist
speak. They have to say something,
right? They're speaking now, and they facilitate the exact same role as silent protagonist does, like nothing changed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, after all that, they make the sword Zeocycros, which is a bad name for a sword.
Well, to do that, every single party member resolves their
dungeon.
Well, it's a long dungeon. But each party member resolves their deepest insecurity, or they finish their character arc, or they figure out something about themselves, but it happens only through like walking into a magic field, and then they're forced to hallucinate. And then in their hallucination, they figure out something about themselves. For half the characters, it's not even foreshadowed, or it's not even like you don't really think about it being something about them, or It's something that happened to them so long in the past, and it's already been a plot point for them with Lilica. They just do the exact same scene again, and then say like a different line, and then you resolves. It's like so lazy.
The really like unsettling thing with each of those sequences is this character goes into a hallucination, and the hallucination speaks to them in the person of the character from their backstory who is their trauma.
Yeah.
To sort them out. And there's no indication there's any connection between this hallucinated version of the person and the person in the real world at all.
Right?
And,
like, we don't even know if Jupus's partner actually does want to work with him.
Yeah, there's
except they're trying to say he does, but
it's completely unreliable as like a source, but it's just what they need to hear to function. And Level 5 does that sort of writing where it's just like, oh, this is happening. The characters believe it's happening, and that's the only thing that matters, because we're not actually gonna make the effort to even consider that this could be like fucking Zegram. When you get to Mariglen, you're getting attacked by shit, and then Mariglen sends robots to help you. And Zergram's just like, well, they're helping us, so they must not be with the monsters, which is the most naive pessimism I've ever heard out of any fucking character's mouth. Like, oh, they're helping us, that might mean that they're trying to get on our good side and are working with them, but just like, no, I guess they're fine. This is so naive.
That's just
how Level 5 is written.
None of the fiction has any consequence to Level 5. I don't know. It's just like, once it comes out, it's just out.
Yeah.
And then they're on to the next thing. And it's just like, I don't know. I can't like describe it, except the way I described it is just like, it's a story you write in 6th grade because you like fantasy a lot. And I've written stories like this. And,
I forget what age range 6th grade is, but I was definitely
11.
writing stories like that older than that.
And I just like put in my favorite stuff from fantasy, and I didn't really think of, I didn't have knowledge of interpersonal relationships or like a really deep understanding of history. These things just happen because I like them, and then I go on to the next thing.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no consideration of like the repercussions of, or even like different sides of this. Like maybe this is just like Mariglen itself trying to get them amped up and capable of doing this thing, but they don't go into that. It's just, no, this is happening and this is completely normal and should not be doubted at all. Don't like it.
Anyway, then you fight Mother, who is the source of all rune, who turns out to have been an ancient servant of the Star King who was betrayed or had a tiff or something and went to Sulk and got infected with the rune and became all-powerful. And you defeat that, and then Valcog, who is the head of the Datron Corporation, who's kind of been the in-loco villain for the whole game, shows up in a battleship, and the rune consumes the battleship and combines it with Valcog and his secretary and his evil scientist to form what is admittedly quite a good final boss battleship enemy model.
It's a good design, but I get the feeling they wanted you to have this final confrontation with Datron, but since they make him get taken over by Rune, which I guess is fitting, it also eradicates any potential for Datron's, for it to be a fight of we hate you capitalist bastards and we're gonna kill you. There's no ideology going on. There's no, you're not fighting them anymore. You're just fighting Rune again. Yeah,
it's just fighting for survival and to put them out of their misery, pretty much.
So it's just boring.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to say is, just as you know from the first time you see Raoul Jasta's father figure that he's going to die, you know that these idiot capitalists are going to get themselves consumed by the evil force they seek to unleash, and that'll be the final boss.
Yeah, I expected either something they make defeats them, or they become rune monsters or something stupid. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
anyway, they become rune monsters, and you fight them as a 10-phase. Checkpoint-free boss, the last phase of which can destroy you in seconds through guarding.
So there's a lot of 1v1 fights, notoriously the one with Digo and Gale. And the thing about 1v1 fights in Rogue Galaxy is if you die, it's game over and you have to start all over again. There's
from the title screen.
Because you're just, you're a single person and it's easy to get stunned and instantly killed or whatever. It's just really easy to die in a 1v1.
Yeah. And
you go back to the title screen, you'll probably have to either fight some bosses over again or skip some cutscenes, and it's just very tedious. And
it takes over a minute from dying to get back into the game every time you die.
Basically, if they're going to have these unreasonable fights, they needed to have a retry option, but it wasn't at the point where anyone was thinking about having retry options, I guess.
Except fucking Kingdom Hearts 1 definitely did.
Yeah.
So, could have curbed that.
It was starting to come in. I mean, if you think about this as a 2005 game, it's a bit early for it. But as a 2007 game, which it was, like, in the West, that would definitely existed by that point.
Mm-hmm.
So even, like, it certainly should have been in for the PS4 port, for fuck's sake.
Well, they didn't do anything to the PS4 port, but yeah.
No.
Yep, it's just archival, instead of, like, what Zodiac Age is doing with how they're tweaking stuff even now.
So he made it through the plot. Like, and kind of, in a way, it's not the best critical practice to just list off the stuff that happens in the game, but really you cannot convey the ways in which this game is flawed any other way. All
without
you can
just
say
laying
is,
it out.
This is what happens. There's nothing we can add to this. This is the actual game.
It feels jaggedy. It feels jaggedy and jumpy too. Like nothing. There's no causality between the events you do. It's like Zerard's like the worst, where you just fall into prison, then you go into the factory. It's just like, why these things don't link up? They're just happening to me. It's almost as if they designed the dungeons you're going to do, and then they just wrote some bullshit in between the lines.
The best you could say about the fucking prison is that you find out that Rune is happening, but you don't find out Rune is happening. You find out human experiments are happening, which is different. You
don't even know what Rune is at that point.
Yeah. And then the factory is just for Jupus, which fuck off.
I said Breath of Fire 2 is a comparison point, but like at every confrontation stage of the game, there's like an official or even a say EVA official who turns into a demon. It shows you like this literal thing that happens a lot in the story is bad. But Rogue Galaxy isn't capable of like doing anything like that. They just like have random plot points happen, and then at the end they reveal, oh yeah, it's all Rune, or it's Rune, and then you're just like, okay.
And then Galactic Peace. This is the best treasure of all, and then Kisala fucks off, and then like, you kidnap her again. Just like
supposedly the motivation, it was even Jasper's motivation revealed when he gets to Dragellum, is like they're trying to end the war, but there's no warfare in the game. There's no government in the game.
There's no interaction with the empires at all.
There's no portrayal of space conflict. It's just happening, supposedly. I mean, you see soldiers, but they act as the arm of Datron more than anything else. They don't do anything.
Yeah, and I don't get how, like, Datron is so governmental on their own planet, yet somehow hasn't drawn the ire of either empire. Like, fuck's sake.
Well, they seem to be on the side of Longardian, except we don't even know what the other empire is, or what planets they're on, or what they do.
Yeah.
But then you bring Mary Glenn back to the present through
and just
warp time travel, and then the war never happened, or it ended, or either way.
This was meant to sell 1 million units or more and overtake Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. It didn't manage either of those things. Thank God.
Yeah.
It did have I think its Metacritic is like an 80 or 90.
What a fucking travesty.
It got received very well at the time. And if you just like, because I like when I play an older game, it's not really a pulse of what people felt. I mean, I'm really just getting like, I'm getting Channer opinions, but I go on GameFAQs to check the reader reviews to see how the people who identify as gamers think about the game, and it's, you know, there's a lot of 8s, a lot of 9s, and a lot of people saying, you know, Rogue Galaxy is how JRPG should be. Rogue Galaxy is better than FF12 and stuff like that. And it's
I remember lots of copies of the game knocking around in that kind of 2007, 2008 period, and I never managed to lay hands on it at the time. Thank God, I wouldn't have lasted very long with it. But like, I remember wanting to play it and being excited that it was around. And it is worth noting that in the West, it came out, I think, January 2007 in America and late 2007 in Europe. And that is peak Death of the JRPG period. And this is a PS2 game at a time where the new generation JRPGs, we're talking kind of Eternal Sonata, and I think Lost Odyssey was out by that point, Infinite Undiscovery, were being widely regarded as crap. Some of them are, some of them not so much. And here's a PS2, and everybody knows the PS2 has the good JRPGs, and it's new IP, and it shows that the PS2 is still alive, and these new consoles are bullshit, and blah, 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 blah.
Is it fair to say Rogue Galaxy is worse than all those other games?
Eternal Sonata is in there, and I think that's maybe the worst video game I've ever played.
I prefer Eternal Sonata to Rogue Galaxy every single day of the week. Like, it has a lot of the same problems, but it actually has a through line, which Rogue Galaxy doesn't.
I suppose, but its through line is like actively harmful and horrible to me. But you did get more out of that game than I did. I don't know. It's definitely in the same.
I guess we're getting into a different discussion, because I hate Skies of Arcadia more than Rogue Galaxy, but I'll say the bullshit like, oh yeah, it's a better game, but that doesn't really make any sense either. But anyways, whatever.
Yeah. But like I think the time period does a lot to explain why this game got the weird. It's not cult status in the way that like a Chrono Cross or a Final Fantasy Tactics has cult status. It's nothing like that built up. But I think that's where it comes from, is the general consensus that things were going in a bad direction, and this game was going in a different direction, so it had to be better because it wasn't the bad direction things were going in, even though the direction things were going in was fine, and this is an objectively worse direction.
And this direction was the garbage can.
There's a lull period, but then here comes a game that it has like this progressed and distorted view of JRPGs that comes from SNES games, and it's like a different endpoint of RPG development that's like super annoying. But yeah.
Good lord.
Do we have any questions?
We do have 4 questions.
Okay, I'm going to add one to the list, but
okay,
go on.
Let's go with this one from @Where'sMyGift on Twitter for you two. How would you say this game compares to Skies of Arcadia in its use of the colonial narrative and the conscious or subconscious racism therein?
So, well, you can go first.
No,
I just think like Rogue Galaxy has no class consciousness, no racial consciousness, and Rogue Galaxy is racist, but it's not oppressive because it's just really ignorant, right? But I think Skies of Arcadia's ignorance is like more on the side of naivete, and they don't understand the racism they're doing, but they like know where the symbols come from, and they know what stories they're inspired by, and they know what being explorer is, I guess. But Rogue Galaxy is just a fantasy story and has that kind of racism and that kind of colonialism in it.
I mean, like, Rogue Galaxy is racist in the way that Skies of Arcadia is misogynistic or fatphobic.
Yeah.
But the racism in Skies of Arcadia is completely baked into its concept, because Skies of Arcadia understands that its aesthetic comes from a history, whereas Rogue Galaxy barely has a coherent aesthetic, never mind any consciousness of any element of that having a history. So yeah, in Skies, the racism is baked into the structure of the game in a way where Rogue Galaxy, it's just kind of incidentally racist.
Like Rogue Galaxy is just like a content bucket video game but like Skies of Arcadia has an identity, and it has this momentum, and it has this thematic core that is racist. And and there's a lot of video games for video game's sake that are ignorant and racist, but they're not trying to be. Basically, that's the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, I think pretty good answer. I think pretty thorough. We did go into this quite a bit last episode too. So
yeah.
From Proxy, how many ingredients don't mix well with the general design of this game, and what kind of bad food would you compare it to?
The bad food I would compare it to is when you're all really drunk at a party and you do the thing where you just grab literally every bottle in the kitchen, pour it into some container, and then everybody has to take a drink of that. Some of those ingredients might be good on their own, but they are all ruined by the combination.
That's the same thing like we're talking about now when you're inebriated and you're having pizza or something. You're like, what if I put these peanut butter pretzels on my pizza and you eat it and it sucks? Because it's not going to be good. But you're not. Your decision making's not there, and there are two things you like separately. Yeah.
Yep.
I would say pertinent because I recently revisited. I went to the Olive Garden once, had chicken scampi. The most flavorful things on there were things that had gone wrong, and I feel like if I was given the ingredients, I could probably do it better myself. And that's what I feel this game is. Just really bad Olive Garden.
The one thing I don't feel any guilt tearing into this game because it took me like 50 hours, and I wasn't miserable, but I was. It's just like a state of existing and not getting anything out of it. I guess the word's wasting my time, but I get a sense from Rogue Galaxy that they had a lot of excitement and care about the dumb things they're making, and they're just like, I have a hard time like outright hating the game
But you can still get mad at it. Like,
no, I mean,
you're not going to hate a dog that shits on the carpet, but you can still get mad at it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like I was going to say, it's in constant puppy syndrome. It like whatever charm it has, there's still piss everywhere.
Yeah.
There's piss everywhere. Dead Genre Chronicles 2017.
I feel bad. This is the things they like, but it sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of unfortunate. Also from Proxy, Level 5 games seem to be a mishmash of ideas that don't work well together. With this in mind, in what directions do you believe Rogue Galaxy should have focused and should have avoided?
Can Rogue Galaxy even be saved? Like, if you give me this question about Ni no Kuni, I would have a list of things. I'm like, yeah, there's things Ni no Kuni could have done. But I think Rogue Galaxy just face planted from the beginning. Well, literally, it should have focused on like its climax. It should have been more of a fantasy story. It should have been building toward stopping Mother from the very beginning. It should have been like Chrono Trigger, basically, where Lavos is introduced very early, and the entire game is just we're going to get strong enough to defeat Lavos, and that would make Rogue
travel
Galaxy
through different pastiches in the process.
See, that would make Rogue Galaxy make sense.
I think they should have made the story less important and just focused on your point about how the loot is multimodal. It can be plugged into all these different systems. I think something interesting could have been made of that if they had developed those systems to be more interesting in themselves and balanced the loot system to make that interesting and express a meaningful relationship to the world, rather than it just being an arbitrary collection of items that drop from whatever because why.
That's true, but the combat's so bad. I don't think like the thing they need to fix basically with combat this bad is like a story that mattered, which I guess they can't do. But also there's pressures on them by Sony, first party Sony, to like they had to have cutscenes, right? And they had to have well-directed cutscenes. And they do actually have well-directed cutscenes, but like just the writing sucks. And so,
yeah.
So yeah, it seemed to have a lot of pressures and expectations to be high-budget cinematic JRPG, and Level 5 was not the team to be able to accomplish that.
Yeah. This was apparently, like, Dark Cloud and Dark Chronicle, they had, like, more oversight from Sony, and this was the one where they were kind of set loose on their own thing, and you can feel it, but that also means that you feel how many times they didn't get told no, and that probably should have happened more.
And and Level 5 is like, they're always like, they make weak writing, basically. Like, the Layton games always feel unsatisfying. Well, yeah, arbitrary, unsatisfying, not quite weighted or paced right, or like the stuff just comes out of left field and then it happens and then it's tragic and you're just like, but why? But the thing is, Layton games take like 5-8 hours, so Level 5's just plot twist out of nothing to have this silly thing happen. Like, it's whimsical and it's kind of fun, but when it's 50 hours of cartoony dumb things over and over again, it stops becoming something I'm entertained by. And so, like, I think just the RPG format is against what Level 5 is able to do. Yeah,
and I've also had discussions over the last few weeks over, like, whether we should really consider Dragon Quest games that are made by Level 5 games, or Level 5 RPGs anyway. And I feel like there's too much at stake for them to not get shot down on a lot of their dumb ideas.
I don't know, though. Brand. I mean, if I play and it's just like Ni no Kuni, I'll just like flip out. I'm like, how did this happen? How did this happen?
It would also explain why Dragon Quest VIII is the most popular in the West. We have one last question, which is actually a couple. From Ewan, having now played at least 2 Level 5 games with all their apparent hallmarks, less obviously anime stylings, younger target audience, chunky item icons, non-50-50 female-male split in the party, etc., what do you think of their work? I'm going to argue that the younger target audience is not true of this game. And I don't think it has a target audience with how it's, like, I don't...
Rogue Galaxy's target audience are people who are nostalgic for JRPGs.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the things on that list, except maybe the one about icon style, really resonate for me as commonalities between this and Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I just... I don't think Level 5 have a coherent style based on the Level 5 games I've played.
I felt like the writing style actually felt pretty similar. In a bad way, but
maybe
the rest. I think they got. I also think their like architecture and environments, they are focused better, more polished than Ni no Kuni. But actually, I see similarities in how they end up in both games. But Level design is actually just overall better than Ni no Kuni, and I don't think very much else is similar. Except there's a lot of items you can craft, I guess.
Yeah,
there's UI similarities, but yeah, it seems like they're going to be like corporate mandates that stay between games. They also don't resemble each other that much, I guess.
The second part of this question: in addition, do you think that JRPGs aimed at a younger audience can work, and how can they be made to work? Thanks for the work. Hard work. Take care.
Paper Mario.
Yeah, they work.
Yep. Yeah.
Pokemon.
Not
Pokemon and Paper Mario.
Pokemon.
Like they just
actually
need to be
not
simple.
The first Paper Mario. Paper Mario after Paper Mario 1. But certainly the Mario and Luigi games, from what I know of them. You can absolutely make a JRPG for younger audiences.
I think Nintendo does a good job of this. I think Golden Sun actually had a lot of oversight to make it accessible to new players too. So it was actually one of my first normal Final Fantasy-like JRPGs that I got just because I liked the title and the back of the box. But yeah, I think it just has to come down to like thinking about your audience and accessibility more than like we're going to make this really kiddie and focus this for kids, because that doesn't necessarily always work, basically.
Yeah. Also, like, Rogue Galaxy is super not a younger audience game. Like I said before, I don't think they have a target audience. They just kind of threw a hand grenade out.
Rogue Galaxy's immature. It reminds me of Shonen, but it feels like people who grew up on those media making something like it, but not for kids.
Yeah, it's not nearly polished enough for a targeted kids product.
But yeah. I think it's definitely, if you're making like a conventional story that you like a lot, like I think Undertale is, a lot of kids play it. And it's just because how immediate and accessible and resonant it is to them. And that's what it means to be like kids media, basically. It's not, it's more natural than unnatural, basically. So that's actually one thing about level 5 things that kind of turned me off. I'm almost not a kid, so it doesn't matter. But like Yokai Watch is like this thing for kids. It reminds me of like Metabots or stuff like that, which are always going to exist. And that's just like, as a kid too, I didn't actually like those things because they just seemed really...
It looks like they're designed to catch parents' attention more than kids.
Basically. I can't like explain my kid feelings in retrospect. They just look cheap to me, that's how I'd feel as a kid. They just didn't look as good as other things. So, yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that like were probably designed for kids that, as a kid, I was just like, they're watering that down so I can play it. I don't want it. I don't know if that's necessarily like true in a lot of the cases, but also, I think from a corporate perspective, they probably don't target younger audiences a whole lot because that's not where the big bucks are all of the time.
Chiefly, I think like the weirdest aspect about level 5 being ostensibly for kids, because I can't argue that's what Yokai Watch is gunning for, but the games are hard. Ni no Kuni is actually really hard.
Yeah.
And Yokai Watch seemed, from like what I've read about people talking about it, it gets pretty hard. And like that's where the expectations for like a kid playing this game kind of shoots out, because when I was a kid, Pokemon was hard, and I give Pokemon to my sisters, and they find it hard. So it's like, we said this on the Ni no Kuni cast. It's just like I don't actually understand who or what level 5 games are for. They seem to try to be doing a Pixar thing, but they're like more crass than Pixar ever. But yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like weird.
Yeah, and designing things for both people new to a genre or video games in general and or children is tough, because you can never account for like the skills of people who haven't like learned. Thanks for that text. Who haven't learned like the motor skills necessary, either like in general or specifically for this hobby, and it's always kind of rough designing stuff like that. But yeah, it can work. I also just think that a lot of times kids are thrown into games that are just normal games, and they learn through trial and error because they're kids and they've got the energy for it.
When I think about it too, it's I know we've got these questions before, like, you know, if someone's ever played RPGs before, what should they try or what should they do? And like, if the interest is not there, I'd honestly like recommend giving people Twines or visual novels and have like that kind of storytelling, like experience that stuff first, because then like an RPG can start making more sense, because they are like a couple steps removed from interactive fiction, but it's kind of the same zone of play happening. They're static games where you do the software interaction for meaning to occur, and RPGs are just always just kind of like unnatural and complex and specific, like discipline compared to like really like a way more immediate thing like a visual novel.
Mm-hmm. And we are not, as much as we are the premier critical podcast on JRPGs, we are not actual gods that know everything about the genre. Year 3 is largely going to be covering bases that people don't talk about. So, some things we just don't know.
Yeah.
Picking games for people new to games or the genre is just hard.
I think if you're operating like on level of trust, you could even spring for just something you really like and try to play it with them. And
yeah,
I don't even like that. This is like far away from the kids' question though. But
yeah,
even if I was playing a game with like a nephew or a cousin, I just show them my games, ask them which one they want to try, and I'd help them do it. Like just kind of go off of that. Yeah, the specifically for kids thing is always just weird to think about. Just because I was the kind of kid who didn't care.
Yeah, same. I was also thinking like, yeah, probably don't ever just throw someone at a new thing without being there to help them out in case they get stuck. Like, that's the biggest...
Especially not a game like this.
Oh god, don't throw this at anyone. Anyway, yeah, that's all our questions.
Well, like I said...
And you've got one more.
So I raised this on my last stream yesterday, so Devin's already answered it. I was interested in Leroy's answer. Level 5 or Tri-Ace?
Tri-Ace. No hesitation. Level 5 experiments are so boring, and the fiction is, you can find it anywhere else but better. Like, at least when you play a Tri-Ace game, it's going to be stupid, it's going to be bad, but it's going to be something only Tri-Ace could do, right?
So this is more or less my feeling.
I was really fast with that. Like, I could definitely end up more miserable playing a Tri-Ace game. I could definitely get more mad playing a Tri-Ace game, but I'd rather have those moments of feeling than just like a dull nothing while I'm playing a level 5 game.
My answer was like, gun, please.
you skewed level 5, and then we got into whether you could count the Dragon Quest level 5 games or not.
And I wouldn't, so I would say gun, please.
Yeah. It's possible. Yeah. It's possible that modern level 5, like, I don't know how Yokai Watch works. Like, maybe they're actually there. Maybe they figured it out after Ni no Kuni. Maybe Ni no Kuni will be, entertaining and does something. Ni no Kuni 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't believe
like,
it.
Tri-Ace have kind of got there because Exist Archive's actually pretty solid.
I believe it. A lot of the niche RPGs that nobody plays, I play them, and I'm like, actually, these games are pretty good.
Omega Quintet. God, I need to get a PS4.
Omega Quintet's actually good. It's actually really good.
I need to get a PS4 to play that stupid game. I mean, it's Compile Heart, but not the Compile Heart that does Neptunia, which is inherently like...
it is actually a different team. It's the Fairy Fencer team.
Which I also need to buy.
So Fairy Fencer and Omega Quintet are both harem games, though, which is why the normal fans don't even usually care about them, but yeah.
Hell yes, give me that shit. You said the magic word.
Shit, what have I unleashed? I retract my question.
The answer was Compile Heart, after all.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've enjoyed most of the Tri-Ace games I've played on this bullshit's funny. This stuff's... I can see what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense, but like level 5, I guess, just oh my god, why?
Like, I guess I'd put it like Tri-Ace have ambitions, whereas level 5 only have ideas.
I mean, level 5 has ambitions, but their ambition is like, I want to have a raunchy Saturday morning cartoon, and that's fun to me. Ni no Kuni doesn't feel ambitious, but like Rogue Galaxy was like, this is their magnum opus. It's just like tripping over itself. It's like more confused than Wild Arms 1 was. And
I still think we need to get Becky to play Wild Arms 2.
Different ambitions.
Maybe someday. Anyway, should we call it there?
Let's wrap this up. Thanks for joining us for this episode of DGC. Next month, we'll be doing something a little special. We will be participating in the Final Fantasy V 4-Job Fiesta. This is a special challenge run of sorts for Final Fantasy V, obviously, run as a charity fundraiser for Child's Play every year. You can find details on the challenge run and how to register once the start of June rolls around at 4jobfiesta.com. That's 4 spelled out, jobfiesta.com. And I'll be doing a short explanation video around that time. As for the game itself, the most legally accessible version is the iOS or Android or Windows port, priced at roughly $16, but you can also emulate the Game Boy Advance version very easily, and that'll probably be how we'll all be playing it. After that, we're closing out our second year of DGC with Becky's favorite JRPG, Final Fantasy XII. Another game based in the e-release setting. It's getting a PS4 re-release based on its revised edition, the Icy Jazz version. I'm committing to that joke. The International Zodiac Job System Edition, or IZJS, which I misheard as Icy Jazz once, and I'm sticking with it. Just in time for our episode on it. I'm going to toss the duty of brief description off to Becky now.
FF12 is Yasumi Matsuno's contribution to the Final Fantasy canon. It's one part extended allegory for Japan during the Cold War, one part meditation on the concept of video game heroism, and borrows, I gather, quite heavily from FF11 in terms of its systems. Like Devon said, it is still probably my favourite JRPG by some measure. I'm playing both the original international release and Zodiac Age, the PS4 remaster. I'm going to be roasted probably.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Also, you're probably going to actually die from the last week and a half that you're gonna have to stream like way too much Zodiac Age. Good thing for that 4x speed. Too much. Good thing that has 4x speed, and you're already gonna have played the original, so you can just commit to the 4x speed when at all possible.
We're really going to find out how much this is my favourite game by the end of July.
Yep. You can find our work on our website, jrpgsaredead.fyi, or our Twitter at jrpgsaredead, or individually at Invisifool for me, at Eat the Pen for Becky, and at WasNotWhyNot for Leroy. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/deadgenre. Join us next time for episode 23 of Dead Genre Chronicles. Good night, everybody.